In 1987, a guy in Ohio quit his factory job to sharpen knives out of the back of a van. 10 years later, he was clearing $94,000 a year, working 4 days a week. Today, half of these forgotten trades pay nearly double what the average office job does, and almost nobody under 40 even knows they exist. Number 14 on this list is so profitable that one man in Texas reportedly cleared $180,000 last year working out of his garage. And number 3, it used to be taught in American middle schools until somebody decided we all needed spreadsheets instead. These are the 20 side hustles that quietly vanished when corporate America convinced your grandfather that real men punch a clock for somebody else. Before we count down, hit subscribe, because at least one of these could change your life. Let's start with number 20. Number 20, knife and scissor sharpening routes. Long before food trucks were trendy, sharpeners drove painted vans through suburban neighborhoods, ringing a handbell that told every housewife on the block to grab her dull blades. By the 1970s, a good sharpener could service 40 homes a day, charging $2 per knife. That came out to over $400 a week in 1975 money, more than $2,000 today. The trade vanished when stainless steel and disposable blades convinced America that dull was just how things were now. Here is the part nobody talks about. A modern sharpener with a belt grinder, a route through restaurant districts, and a square card reader on his phone can charge $8 to $12 per blade. One operator in Colorado posted his books online last year. He showed $86,000 in revenue, $17,000 in expenses, almost $70,000 in profit, working 3 days a week. Restaurants alone keep these guys booked solid. Your grandfather knew this. We forgot. Number 19, window screen repair. When aluminum screens started ripping in the 1960s, every neighborhood had a guy with a roll of mesh and a spline tool who would rescreen your window in 20 minutes for $3. Then big box stores started selling pre-made screens, and the trade went underground. Here is what they do not tell you. Pre-made screens almost never fit right, and replacing them at the chain hardware store runs $40 to $60 per window. A guy with a $30 spline tool, a roll of fiberglass mesh, and a folding table can rescreen any window in 15 minutes for $25 and pocket $22. Multiply that by 10 houses on a Saturday in spring. That is $220 before lunch. One repair guy in Phoenix runs ads only on Nextdoor and clears $40,000 a year working weekends. The kicker is that most of his customers are people who had been quoted $300 at a hardware store and decided to ask the neighborhood instead. Number 18, worm farming. Back in the 1950s, every gas station near a lake sold live night crawlers in styrofoam cups for $0.25. The supplier was usually some old guy with a backyard bed full of worms, soil, and coffee grounds. He would sell 3,000 worms a week to bait shops at $0.05 apiece during fishing season. By 1955, that added up to close to $1,500 a summer. Real money. Today, the same worm farmer can sell red wigglers and European night crawlers online for $40 a pound. Bait shops pay even more for live count packaging. A backyard worm bin, 4 feet by 8 feet, can produce 10 pounds a month with almost zero work. That is $400 in profit on something most people pay to throw out. Compost, in case you were wondering. Master gardener forums are full of retirees pulling in $1,200 a month from worms they keep in their garage. The startup cost is about $60 for a bin and a starter colony. Number 17. Firewood splitting and delivery. Every rural town in America used to have a wood guy. He would show up in October with a cord of split, seasoned hardwood and stack it neatly by your back porch for $40. Today, a face cord of seasoned oak in upstate New York runs $350 delivered. A full cord can hit $900. Here is the math nobody runs. A standing dead tree is often free. A logger's leftover/piles are usually free. A used hydraulic splitter costs about $1,500 and lasts 20 years. One guy in Vermont posts his numbers online every year out of spite. Last winter, he sold 72 cords. After fuel and chain costs, he walked away with $38,000 between October and February, working 3 days a week. He still drives a 30-year-old pickup. He owns his land outright. He retired from a teaching job at 58 because firewood paid better than the school did. First pattern break. Here is where it gets interesting. Forget what social media tells you about passive income. Real vending operators, the ones who started in the 1970s, knew this game cold. A single well-placed snack machine in a busy laundromat or auto shop can clear $200 to $300 a month in profit. The forgotten part is that you do not need a national distributor. The original vending guys bought candy and chips at the wholesale club, marked them up 400%, and split commissions with location owners. Modern operators with 20 machines spread across a small city report $60,000 to $100,000 in annual revenue, with profit margins around 40%. Here is the kicker. The Small Business Administration still classifies vending as one of the most recession-resistant micro-businesses in America. A used machine costs around $400 on Facebook Marketplace. Locations are usually free if you pitch it right. Your grandfather's barber probably had one. He probably also retired comfortably. Number 15. Chair caning and wicker repair. Look at any antique store and you will see beautiful caned chairs with broken seats sitting unsold for $50 a piece. Now look at an upscale furniture restorer's price list. Recaning a single chair seat runs between $175 and $400, depending on the pattern. The trade nearly died when plastic furniture took over in the 1970s. But here is the secret. Almost nobody under 60 knows how to do this anymore, and demand is rising fast as mid-century chairs become collectible again. A skilled caner can rebuild a 6-strand pattern in about 3 hours. Materials cost $20 per chair. That is over $100 an hour, sitting in your garage, listening to the radio. One craftswoman in North Carolina has a 6-month waiting list and grosses around $70,000 a year working from a converted shed. Online tutorials can teach you the basic 4-strand weave in a weekend. The hardest part is convincing yourself you are allowed to charge what you are worth. Number 14. Mobile car detailing the way it used to be done. Not the soap and go drive-through. The real deal. Hand wax, leather conditioning, engine bay cleaning, paint correction. In the 1980s, a guy with buckets, a buffer, and a station wagon would drive into a country club parking lot and book 3 cars a day at $100 apiece. Adjusted for inflation, that is almost $300 today. Modern mobile detailers in places like Texas and Florida charge $400 to $600 per full detail and book out 2 weeks in advance. Here is the wild part. One operator in Houston went viral last year for showing his books. $180,000 in personal revenue, working out of a single van. His expenses, fuel, supplies, and a cheap pressure washer came in at under $20,000. The trade got buried under chain car washes that promised speed. But people who own a $60,000 truck do not want speed. They want their leather conditioned. Number 13. Picture framing. Walk into a chain craft store and price a custom frame for an 11 by 14 photo. You will pay around $200 and wait 3 weeks. Independent framers in the 1960s and 70s did the same job in their basement workshop for $40 and pocketed $25. Here is the math. The chains do not want you running. Mat board costs $2 a sheet wholesale. A length of basic molding costs $6. Glass costs $4. Total materials per frame are around $15. The skill is in the cuts and the corners, and any patient adult can learn it in a weekend with a foot guillotine. and a chopper. A small framing operation run from a spare bedroom can clear $3,000 to $5,000 a month, mostly through word of mouth and online marketplaces. The market is enormous. Every wedding produces framed photos. Every diploma needs a home. Every grandmother has a stack of art she wants protected. The chains overcharge so badly that almost any honest framer wins. Second pattern break. Now here's where things get strange. Number 12. Bookbinding and book repair. In 1955, every American library had a bookbinder on retainer who repaired damaged books for $2 apiece. The trade quietly disappeared as paperbacks took over, and libraries started just throwing damaged hardcovers away. But here is what nobody noticed. The luxury journal market exploded. Custom-bound Bibles, family genealogies, restored first editions, and hand-bound leather journals on craft marketplaces regularly sell for $200 to $800 each. A single skilled binder working from home can build 6 to 8 books a week. The supplies, leather, board, thread, and glue run about $30 per book. One bookbinder in Oregon, who learned the trade from an uncle, posts her sales numbers every quarter. Last year, she pulled in just over $90,000, working 4 days a week from a small home studio. Here is the part that should bother you. The American Library Association estimates that fewer than 400 professional bookbinders remain in the United States. The skill ceiling is high, but so is the floor. Number 11. Sign painting and hand lettering. Before vinyl cutters and computer plotters, every storefront in America had hand-painted lettering done by a sign painter charging $2 a letter in 1970. A medium-sized shop window paid him $400 for a day's work. The trade collapsed almost overnight when computer-cut vinyl came in during the 1990s. And then something funny happened. Hipster restaurants and craft breweries decided that vinyl looked cheap. Hand-painted signs are now a status symbol. The going rate for a chalkboard menu is $200. A storefront window can run $2,000. One sign painter who relearned the craft from old trade magazines now charges $75 an hour and books out 3 months in advance. $40,000 to $90,000 in side income is normal at the upper end. The barriers to entry are practice and a steady hand. A starter brush kit costs $80. The market is begging for skilled people because the chain shops genuinely cannot replicate handwork, and customers can tell. Number 10. Estate sale flipping. When somebody's grandfather dies in the suburbs, his garage usually contains between $5,000 and $20,000 worth of vintage tools, sporting goods, and household items sold off by overwhelmed children for pennies on the dollar. In the 1980s, a few clever operators figured out they could buy the contents of an entire estate for $400 and resell the pieces individually for 15 times that. The forgotten side hustle is showing up early on Saturday morning, knowing what things actually cost online, and walking away with the goods. A vintage Stanley plane bought for $2 at an estate sale sells for $90 to a woodworker on Facebook Marketplace. A single Pyrex bowl in the right pattern goes for $60. Full-time flippers report between $50,000 and $150,000 in annual revenue. The skill is research, knowing the difference between a junk lamp and a Stiffel original. The startup cost is gas money and a smartphone. Number 9. Beekeeping and honey sales. In 1948, a farm extension agent could tell you that one hive produced 60 pounds of honey a year and paid for itself in 6 weeks. The trade was so common that hardware stores sold beekeeping supplies right next to gardening tools. Then commercial honey from overseas flooded the market, and most backyard apiaries disappeared. Here's what changed everything. Local raw honey now sells for $15 to $25 a pound at farmers markets. And people will drive an hour for the real thing because grocery store honey is often cut with corn syrup. A single hive producing 60 pounds of honey at $20 a pound is $1,200 in revenue per hive per year. 10 hives, the maximum most local zoning laws allow on a quarter-acre property. can clear $10,000 annually with about 4 hours a week of work in season. Beeswax, propolis, and pollen sell for even more per ounce. The startup cost for a hive is around $400. Your grandfather's neighbor probably kept bees. The honey he gave you tasted different for a reason. Number 8. Tailoring and alterations. Half of America buys clothing that does not fit. The other half donates clothes that do not fit because they do not know any better. In the 1960s, every dry cleaner had a tailor in the back, hemming pants for $3 a pair. Today, getting suit pants properly hemmed at a chain shop runs $30 to $45 and takes a week. Independent tailors working from home charge $20 and finish in 2 days. Here is the math that explains why this trade refuses to die. A skilled home-based tailor can complete 8 to 10 alterations a day. At an average of $25, that is $200 in revenue per day, working from a sewing machine that costs $300. Annual income for a part-time alterations business in any city with more than 50,000 people regularly hits $40,000 to $70,000. The barrier to entry is about 2 months of practice and a willingness to learn invisible hemstitch. The wedding industry alone keeps tailors permanently booked. Bridal alterations on a single dress can run $600. Third pattern break. This next one shocked even me. Number 7. Watch and clock repair. There are roughly 30,000 certified watchmakers in the United States, down from 150,000 in 1950. Demand for repairs has not dropped. It has tripled. A single mechanical watch service runs between $400 and $1,200 at any reputable watchmaker, and the wait time at most shops is now over a year. The trade quietly died because nobody trained replacements. Vintage Rolex, Omega, and Hamilton watches that need servicing routinely show up on the secondary market at half their value because nobody can fix them. A self-taught watchmaker with $3,000 in tools and 2 years of practice can charge $125 per hour. One operator in Wisconsin, who started as a hobbyist, now grosses $90,000 a year, working out of his basement workshop. He turns away 3 customers a week. The clock side is even more profitable. Grandfather Clock Service, complete cleaning and oiling, runs $800 per call. There are maybe 100 clock guys left in the entire Midwest. They are all booked solid. Number 6. Self-storage unit auction flipping. When somebody stops paying their storage unit rent, the contents legally go up for auction after 90 days. In the 1970s and the 1980s, this was a quiet side gig for a handful of guys who could read a unit at a glance. A unit might sell for $200 and contain $3,500 of sellable goods. The trade got loud for a few years because of reality television. Then, it quietly retreated. Here's the truth. The bidders have thinned out, but the units have not. Average winning bids in most American cities run between $100 and $400. The contents typically resell for 2 to 5 times that. One operator in Atlanta runs a channel showing his actual numbers. Last year, he bought 58 units, spending $9,000 in total and reselling them for $41,000. After fees and gas, he netted about $26,000 working weekends. The skill is patience and knowing what tools, brand name furniture and electronics actually sell for online. Number 5. Piano tuning. There are 40 million pianos in American homes. There are roughly 7,000 active piano tuners. Do that math. A single tuning runs $125 to $200 and takes an hour and a half. A trained tuner can do 4 to 5 appointments a day. That's between $500 and $1,000 in daily revenue. The skill takes about a year of dedicated practice and roughly $400 in tools, including a tuning hammer, a set of mutes, and a digital tuning device. The Piano Technicians Guild offers a self-study program that costs less than $1,000 total. Why did it disappear? Music education collapsed in public schools, and parents stopped insisting their children practice. But the existing pianos still need service. A working tuner with a regular client base of 300 customers, the standard book size can clear $60,000 to $100,000 annually, working 4 days a week. One tuner in Indiana, who learned in his 50s after retiring from teaching, told a podcast he makes more in tuning than he ever did in education. Number 4. Taxidermy. The trade peaked in the 1960s, when nearly every small American town had a taxidermist working in a room in the back of the shop next to a sporting goods store. Commercial production overseas killed off most local operations during the 1990s. The result is hunters now ship animals across state lines to find a competent taxidermist, and wait times of 18 to 24 months are normal. A white-tailed deer shoulder mount runs between $600 and $1,200. A full body bear costs $5,000. A skilled taxidermist working from home can complete 40 to 60 pieces a year, with about 30% profit margin after materials. That's between $50,000 and $90,000 in annual income, working out of a heated garage. The trade is regulated. You need a state license in most places, but training is widely available through correspondence courses and apprenticeships. Pet preservation, the new growth area, regularly commands $2,000 per dog. People will pay almost anything to remember their old retriever. Number 3. Cobbling and shoe repair. In 1965, every American downtown had a cobbler. Today, there are fewer than 2,500 shoe repair shops in the entire country, and most are owned by men over 65, with no apprentices. Meanwhile, a pair of high-end leather shoes can cost $300 to $700 new, and resoling extends their life by 10 years for $60. The math nobody wants to admit. A self-employed cobbler in any city with disposable income can charge $40 for a heel replacement, $80 for a full resole, and $120 for a complete restoration. A workbench, a finishing machine, and a stitcher run about $8,000 used. One cobbler in Charleston, who learned from his grandfather, grosses just over $110,000 a year running a shop the size of a closet. The fashion industry has spent a decade trying to convince Americans that shoes are disposable. The high-end customer has spent the same decade desperately searching for someone who can save their boots. Number 2. Locksmithing as a side trade. Not the corporate kind, the neighborhood kind. In the 1970s, every town had a locksmith who would rekey your front door for $15 and cut a duplicate key while you waited. Today, calling a chain locksmith for a car lockout costs $300, and you face an hour wait. An independent locksmith working as a side hustle, with $150 in basic picks and a key machine on the back of a pickup truck, can charge $120 per call and arrive in 20 minutes. The barrier to entry is a state license. It costs about $300, requires a background check, and roughly 2 months of practice. The work is steady. Lockouts, rekeys, and lock installations happen constantly. One side hustle locksmith in Tennessee who works only Friday through Sunday clears about $32,000 a year on top of his day job. Realtors alone, who need rekeys after every closing, can keep a single locksmith permanently booked. And finally, in first place, number 1, antique furniture restoration. Every estate sale in America contains at least one piece of solid wood furniture worth between $500 and $5,000 after a decent refinish. Most of them sell for $30 because nobody knows how to restore them anymore. The trade was killed by particle board and the rise of disposable furniture in the 1980s. But solid wood furniture made before 1960 has appreciated faster than the stock market over the last decade. A skilled restorer who buys a beat-up walnut secretary for $50 can spend 20 hours stripping, repairing, and refinishing it, then sell it for $1,200. After materials, that is about $55 an hour for work done in a heated garage with the radio on. Full-time restorers regularly clear $70,000 to $120,000 a year. The skills are completely teachable through library books and online tutorials. The startup cost is around $500 in chemicals, sandpaper, and basic hand tools. The American antique market is starved for craftsmen because every old guy who knew how to do this retired without training a single replacement. You walk into the trade today, you walk into a market with almost no competition and infinite demand. Your grandfather's workshop produced more wealth per hour than your office cubicle ever will. Here is my challenge. Pick one, just one. The knife sharpening, the beehives, the broken chairs in the garage. Try it for a weekend and see what it actually pays. Then come back and tell me which trade you started. Because most of these are dying, not because they do not work, but because nobody under 40 knows they exist. Drop the number in the comments. These are not just side hustles. They are proof that an entire generation of Americans built real wealth with their hands, while the rest of us were told to get a degree and sit in traffic. They knew. Now you know too.